Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. If you're just joining us, of course, 84 dead, 2 Americans included in Nice, France, 10 children. The terrorist, Tunisian-born Mohamed Boulel, drove a delivery truck for a living, but rented a 19-ton Renault truck that he turned into a literal devastation machine. We talk about improvised explosive devices. We talk about coordinated attack. But here you have one of the biggest casualties by simply using a truck and a handgun. And as simple as it is, Jordan, in another sense, it's very sophisticated.
Yeah, because you've got to, under the radar, take a vehicle like this on the most important day of the French calendar, holiday-wise, specific to France, their Independence Day, Bastille Day. So imagine here, July 4th, you're taking a truck like this as an individual who may have no record at all of renting these kind of vehicles. So you've gotten that. You have the resources to do that. Then you've got to get it through some checkpoints because obviously this is an important day. There are streets shut down. There are a lot of people on the promenade, on the beachfront, on the waterfront to watch the fireworks for the Independence. Yes, you can't just do this in a few hours. And then you've got to know where you're going to strike, where you're going to get onto a promenade to take this many individual lives with a vehicle like this and be able to get out and then fire shots as well.
Yep. Logan, we've got comments that have been coming in.
These are countries, by the way, very difficult to even get firearms like this.
Well, they're saying they came in probably through the refugees. Do we have that bite where it came in through the refugees? Well, if not, let's get it. Okay? I mean, some of the experts, even on CNN, other networks saying, look, it's the refugee flow is how these weaponry are getting in here is what they thought. Comments, Logan, coming in on second.
Yeah, a lot of comments have been coming in for the whole half hour. This came from Sherry. Said, how many more innocents must die before the administration and Congress declares war on jihad? Those kind of comments coming in. We have the power to do this. We must stop it. That was from Scott. And what are our nation's leaders waiting for? That came from Virginia. So all kind of the same sentiment.
Than, I mean, the American people are running out of patience here with the United States Congress too on this. Yeah. And working about how do we word this and we word that. We're in a war. These people are taking this war to our allies. We had Skip on talking about NATO. This is real.
The United States is not leading. The president is the one that is primarily to blame as the commander-in-chief, but Congress has a role too. They should be stepping up and authorizing the use of force or declaring war. One of the two. All of them, Jay, need to be called to account on this.
Yeah, we are pushing this very, very aggressively, by the way. So I want people to know that. Go ahead, Logan.
Yeah, and it needs to happen now. A lot of people are saying, well, let's wait for the new president. Well, that's 6-7 months from now.
No, they're doing this. This is the problem, Jordan. You and I were talking. The timing of this, did people understand it was months in between attacks before? 6 months in between attacks. Yeah. Now it's every other week or every week.
Yeah, massive.
Massive
terror attacks on huge body counts. I mean, you've got such a loss of life. Whether it was last night with 84, that number could go up. And then, in Bangladesh, 20, Turkey, 45 at the airport there. And, I mean, the major international airport. 50 in Orlando. And Brussels, you've got the suicide bombings, over 35. 35 killed, over 300 wounded. Those have all just happened. Well, first of all, Orlando, Turkey, Bangladesh, and France were just within the last 32 days. Just in the last 32 days.
Folks, I want you to hear this again.
So Orlando was June 12th. And then in June 28th, you had the Istanbul airport attacks. July 1st, you had the Bangladesh attacks, which also known for a lot of international, right? Yep. And then July 14th. So just between June 12th and July 14th, 4 major attacks. I mean, the total count of loss of life there is over 200 people.
The spokesman for ISIS, Abu Muhammad al-Aldini, in 2014 said this: if you're not able to find an IED or a bullet, then single out the disbelieving Americans, Frenchmen, or any of their allies. Smash their heads with rocks or slaughter them with a knife or run them over with your car or throw them down a high place or choke them or poison them. This is a world war. We have engaged and entered into World War III. Folks, we need to take direct action on this. We have a petition up at aclj.org. We're going to encourage you to sign it. We have to defeat ISIS. We've got a 5-point plan to do it. We need that implemented by Congress now. Go to aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 877-989-2255.
The Islamic State, ISIS, wants to destroy America and eradicate Christianity. Jihadists pledging allegiance to ISIS and radical Islam have attacked America, slaughtering dozens of Americans in multiple terrorist attacks. President Obama refuses to acknowledge the enemy. His administration has failed to protect us. ISIS is at war with us. We must wage war against ISIS. At the ACLJ, we've developed a critical 5-point strategy to defeat and destroy this jihadist enemy. We have 5 key steps to defeat ISIS. 1. Name the enemy, Islamic jihadists. 2. Fix our broken intelligence. 3. Ramp up undercover stings to smoke out jihadists at home. 4. Declare war on ISIS. And 5. Unleash full U.S. military might to utterly destroy ISIS. Stand with us. Add your name to our new petition right now. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
I believe that this has taken us into a World War III. This is carnage that's happening. Jordan just outlined in the last segment. It's happening so frequently. Washington fan, very quickly, and we'll get to calls, has been very slow to respond here. Very.
Yeah, when will they admit it? I mean, a frightening number here, Jay, don't want to admit that we are at war. A Republican and Democrat. Yeah. It starts at the president and trickles down. Listen, I would just very quickly argue this. Let's stop arguing about whether or not to call it a war declaration or an authorization of use of force. Let's step up and let's call it a war and let's commit to defeating it.
Yeah, I mean, folks, this is World War III. If we don't end this enemy, okay? Remember what happened in the previous administration? We were fighting them in Syria. We were fighting them in Iraq. We were fighting them in Afghanistan. And guess what we did not have? A lot of fights in Brooklyn, or a lot of fights in Orlando, or a lot of fights in Boston. But now we do. So the president's policy has failed. We've got to engage that enemy and destroy that enemy, and we've got to stop this political correct nonsense of not even being able to call it radical jihadist, which is precisely and exactly what it is. This is a global war on radical jihadism, and if anybody doesn't think so, or politically correct, I don't like calling that, or it's not appropriate, let me tell you something. What do you call the Nazis? The National Socialist Party? Because that sounded better? It's the same death context. And realize they are after Americans as well. French, British, it doesn't matter. It's Western civilization.
Yeah, and to some extent, the world in the past operated to keep these groups out of their territories for the most part in their countries. We were in a world of occupation. We used to be, whether it was France and in North Africa, whether it was the British in the Middle East within the United States, Russia in Afghanistan, then the United States. And so we fought these battles on their turf rather than on our home turf. Yes, that meant significant, sometimes military loss of life, though nothing like we saw in the World Wars or even in the Korean War or Vietnam. Not that kind of loss of life. But, significant. You have to commit the resources, and you can't be, I'd say, wimpy about it. Yeah. I mean, the idea is that, this constant idea of when can we leave, when can we leave? That's the bad mentality.
This could be the 1,000-year war.
Yeah, I mean, you could have to occupy certain zones and territories with international forces for decades.
For decades.
And that alone...
Don't be afraid of that either.
You can't be afraid of it. We can't keep thinking of these battles as, well, we can win this in a year and we can do it all from the air.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I feel like I've seen this morning specifically how accustomed people have gotten used to this kind of attack. Usually the social media pages would erupt. The morning shows would all change their tone. Sure, it was the leading story of the Today Show, Fox and Friends, and these kind of shows. But they weren't afraid to laugh, make jokes, move on, talk about Pence. There was a joke like Mike Pence is sitting around waiting for Hamilton tickets. That was one of the things on Today's Show.
I saw that.
Everyone's laughing and goofing off. And what I think is odd is that we are becoming like a lot of these other countries, which is true. You see these versions of these morning shows in Israel or these places where this is a regular occurrence, and they have to act that way because this becomes normal life. And that's where I feel like we're on the verge of this, where you start to almost accept this as this is going to happen every week.
Let me tell you, when you accept it, very, very dangerous. Even President Hollande of France, the socialist president of France, realizes that this is a long-term war.
So we are in a fight for the long term because our enemy will continue to hit all the people, all the countries which have liberty at the core of their values.
So there you have it. And that's from the socialist president of France. Let's go take some calls.
All right. Yeah, a lot of people have been holding for a while. Michael's calling in Virginia Beach, Virginia. You're on the air.
Michael, go ahead.
Jay, you're absolutely right. And your correspondent in France is absolutely right. You were right to say this is a 1,000-year war.
Yep.
But the Muslims are right to say that it's a struggle. They don't use the word war, and here's why they're right. Because it's a cultural struggle.
Sure.
And your correspondent in France seems to understand that better than any commentators that I hear on the radio here in the United States.
I appreciate you saying that. And by the way, Michael, that's the reason why when he and Professor Hutchinson were talking, I want them to do a joint article on exactly that. Go ahead,
And
Julian.
it's also the what they're living with in France versus here. Whereas in the United States, these Islamic communities were much more spread out, larger country, and so we're not dealing with it the same way. In France, in the large urban areas, and Gregor's in one of those, you've got these influx of migration, and you've had it for many decades because of the French activity in North Africa, just across the ocean there. So in places like Nice, obviously, it would not be strange to have these large communities inside your country. And so we don't even have that to an extent on that level. We probably have more by numbers, but because of the size of our country and the way our cities are spread out, it's different. In France, they're dealing with this right on their street corners because of the influx of migration. So when we talk about that issue here, the refugee issue here, we need to look to Europe. Because you could have that kind of response. You're talking about this cultural battle happening internally or struggle. You can have that happening in the United States. We're not there yet. We don't have those kind of numbers
But
yet.
England's got it.
But
France
England
has it.
France has it. The European countries that we have allied ourselves with, they are dealing with the decades of those kind of refugee flows.
Yes, and that is, and the consequences of that you're witnessing in the Strait. Yeah, Germany's got it too, and this was Tunisian born, became a French national. And then President Obama's talking about, I'm going to get 10,000 in. Hillary Clinton said 1.5 million Syrians to be reallocated to the United States of America. That's in her plan. So take that for what it's worth. I think it's very important for you to take action and join us in this fight. We've got a 5-point plan. We've presented it to Congress. We're getting movement. We need your help. Sign that petition right now at aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 877-989-2255. All right, Logan.
Yeah, a lot of people are commenting and calling in. Let's go ahead and take some more calls. Let's go to Jeremy, who's calling from Colorado Springs.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hi, Jay. We are absolutely in World War III.
Yep.
There's really no other way to say it. And, the 5-point plan I just heard a few minutes ago, that was spot on. And appropriately, number one was name the enemy and call it what it is.
Right.
Appropriately that is first. I don't think the other 4 points could be independently acted upon without.
Yeah, you got to name the enemy. And, the president, for the first time, Hillary Clinton actually said a radical jihadist. But even listen to how she couched this battle. I mean, I think it's very important. We'll play Donald Trump by 2. We'll be equal here. But Hillary Clinton, listen to this.
We've got to do more to understand that this is a war against these terrorist groups, the radical jihadist groups. It's a different kind of war. We need to be smart about how we wage it. But we have to be determined that we're going to win it.
Absolutely.
And that's going to require working with other people.
So what does that mean? I mean, that's not saying we're taking it to the enemy. And Fan, the politics of this, I mean, forget that. This is take this to the enemy. Say this is a war. Oh, it's a different kind of war. Actually, it's not really a different kind of war. Because if you study world wars, this is what world wars are. There's attacks on the homeland. It may be Pearl Harbor. For the French, it may be Paris or now Nice. For England, it may be London. For Turkey, it was Istanbul. But these are attacks, and this is global in scope. Fan quickly, and then Jordan.
Jay, it's patently clear what this threat is. We just failed to issue it. Listen, I talked to a congressional office today that said, listen, we can't declare war because it's been 74 years since we've done it.
That's a
My
great
response
excuse.
to them was, so what?
Right.
Maybe it's about time. Just because it's been 74 years doesn't mean now is not the right time to do it again. So this starts at the top, but it goes all the way down to Congress as well.
That's an absurd, that kind of stuff. We haven't done it in 74 years. Well, why did we do it 74 years ago? What was it that made us do that? Oh, we had a world war. Okay. So there's your precedent. Fortunately, we don't have world wars every 20 years, but you do get them. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so we have to change our mindset and how we're fighting these battles. These individuals that could be targeted. And Donald Trump, by the way, has called for that declaration of war and says he will call on Congress to call for that declaration of war.
Let me play that. Here, this came out yesterday on Bill O'Reilly.
I believe it's a world war now. We're in a world war scenario. It's no longer just isolated ISIS attacks. Do you agree with that?
I certainly do, and I've been saying it for a long time, and it's out of control, and we don't call it what we have a president that doesn't want to call it what it is, and, you know, you look at World Trade Center, you look at San Bernardino, you look at Paris, 130 people killed and so many injured. You look at Orlando, it's out of control, and Bill, unless we get strong and you know, really strong and very, very smart leadership, it's only going to get worse.
I do fear that. I mean, it's the sense on Facebook that people, I mean, they're saying they're getting used to it, but I think it gets worse.
I think it does. You know, I talked about this months ago when Donald Trump got the nomination. I said this was a one-issue candidacy and one-issue nomination. And as time has moved on, I feel like that gets clearer and clearer.
Yeah.
I don't think people care about his stance on abortion, care about his stance on any of the social issues. They do care, but mainly they're looking for someone who is going to go and take care of this, because this is not the world we've been living in for our entire lives.
Yeah.
And the immigration issue, which is directly tied to the refugee issue. So when you put those together, the terrorism issue and the building the wall and our security at home, it's not just an international issue that we have to send troops for, but what's happening in our own country as well. So the strong leadership France is also dealing with internally. I think you're going to see a wave of elections which will be impacted by this very issue.
I think what you saw happen in Britain with Brexit is symptomatic of what's going to happen in the rest of the world. The question is going to be, for instance, is Holland, does he get replaced by Sarkozy? That's what they're talking about again.
Yeah.
And you go from a socialist to a conservative.
Very possible. And there was heavy criticism from what was also the Republicans in France of the security situation in Nice, specifically at the national level and the federal level.
As we go into this break, I think it's very important for you to take action and join us in this fight. We've got a 5-point plan. We've presented it to Congress. We're getting movement. We need your help. Sign that petition right now at aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 877-989-2255. Back with more in a moment.
The Islamic State, ISIS, wants to destroy America and eradicate Christianity. Jihadists pledging allegiance to ISIS and radical Islam have attacked America, slaughtering dozens of Americans in multiple terrorist attacks. President Obama refuses to acknowledge the enemy. His administration has failed to protect us. ISIS is at war with us. We must wage war against ISIS. At the ACLJ, we've developed a critical 5-point strategy to defeat and destroy this jihadist enemy. We have 5 key steps to defeat ISIS. 1. Name the enemy, Islamic jihadists. 2. Fix our broken intelligence. 3. Ramp up undercover stings to smoke out jihadists at home. 4. Declare war on ISIS. And 5. Unleash full U.S. military might to utterly destroy ISIS. Stand with us. Add your name to our new petition right now. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
We were talking during the break to our friends on Facebook and Periscope, and I want to say this to our radio audience as well, that and television and ACLJ.org. You know, Neville Chamberlain did this appeasement approach, and he had a little bit of an excuse. It wasn't. I don't think it was a valid one, and that was his military had been devastated in World War I, so they were still trying to rebuild. And 15, 18 years later, they're facing 20 years later, they're facing World War II. Well, President Obama has been decimating the military instead of encouraging and increasing the military. So he's created our own problem. And I think the candidates are going to be very clear on where that comes. And that seems to be a lot of the sentiment that's being expressed today. Let's go ahead. We got one last segment here, so we need to really go through these calls.
All right, let's go to Carol, who's calling in California. You've been holding for almost half hour. Thanks a lot, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Sorry, just getting to you.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, is there anything that we can do to stop this 10,000 influx of refugees into America?
It's really tough. I mean, I think that, Congress is trying. The president is committed to doing this. Hillary Clinton says she's going to have, 1.5 million that she wants in. I think, look, you got to hit pause. We don't know who the people are. We can't vet who they are. We don't know where they're coming from. The French are worried about it now. You heard Gregor Popinik from our office. I mean, we need to hit a pause button, and Congress doesn't seem to want to have the guts to do it, but we need to do it.
And not to be heartless at all, but unlike France, these are not former colonies of the United States. These are not, we don't have the same kind of migration and immigration flows and the same occupying history or colonial history. And so and that's what France and the UK and also Germany, they're dealing with those histories of occupation and colonization. And so they've got these relationships where they've allowed this free flow of immigrants from these communities for decades. In the United States, we have a choice to make about that. We don't have that same kind of history, and it's a very long trip to make also to resettle here in the United States, which is why we've focused on the safe zone issue in the regions. We don't want more pressure on Europe. Certainly that's not going to work, but also more pressure here, not just talking about our own porous borders, but the fact that we'd accept over 1 million people who we have no documentation on.
I mean, which is inexplicable. But I know we got to go through these calls, Logan, but quickly, is there any real movement on this, or do we just need to get aggressive on our 5-point plan? We've been aggressive, but even more aggressive.
Well, I think we need to do both, Jay. Listen, when the new fiscal year rolls around in September, Congress should do what Jordan said and authorize that money for those in-region safe zones. It's not sympathetic. In fact, you can provide 12 times the number of refugees safety over there than you can here.
Yep.
Congress should do that now.
I think it's very important for you to take action and join us in this fight. We've got a 5-point plan. We've presented it to Congress. We're getting movement. We need your help. Sign that petition right now at aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 877-989-2255.
All right, let's go to Scott, who's calling in Arlington, Virginia.
Hey, Scott.
Hi.
Yes,
Jay, hey, I was listening to your first caller earlier today.
Yes.
And or earlier in the program, related to what the military can do within the borders of the United States. I was wondering if you could comment for our listeners on what posse comitatus is and what the restrictions are on the active duty compared to the National Guard. Active duty, being under Title 10, and then National Guard.
Because of what's called posse comitatus, we don't allow our military to be our police. And that's a fundamental difference of how that works. So our military, like in France, they did that. And they may have, we say they did that. They may have utilized the National Guard approach. I mean, I drilled down on that with Gregor. Did they, in other words, say, we're going to put in our version of National Guard in France, and this way the police are armed and there's military out there. After 9/11, there were military on every, Jordan, you remember, we were in Washington, there was military on every corner, but generally we don't let the military play the role of police, and I think that's wise, but we've got to realize we are in a very different struggle right now, and I think everything should be on the table is how we evaluate it.
Yeah, and especially in a country that the size of France, where you've got to sometimes use military force to supplement the police, on a day like their Independence Day, when you've got these mass celebrations in the streets, movement of people, fireworks displays, not just in one place, but in all the major cities and smaller cities as well. But Nice being the 5th most populous city in France, you would imagine that security would have been at its highest level possible to prevent this. And so it's hard to imagine, not that someone attempts to carry out an attack, that's not hard to imagine on these days, but that it's this devastating.
Yeah,
that's it's hard to imagine. That they could go for a mile and a half down the road, 2 kilometers down the road, and then kill this many people using a vehicle. And again, this was someone not on the terror radar, but on the law enforcement radar, was sentenced to a 6-month suspended sentence for road rage, actually, for a violent incident that happened while driving.
Yeah, it's horrendous. All right, let's go take another call, Logan.
All right, Julie's calling from Santa Monica, California. You're on the air.
Hey, Julie.
8 years of a president who refuses to protect weaker countries or stand up for the world results in this. And my question is, if we completely obliterated ISIS in Iraq and Syria, which we should have done, there were only 5,000 of them, but would that stop the attacks in the other parts of the world?
It will. Look, it takes one guy to do this, but when they lose the caliphate, they lose their momentum. That doesn't mean another one's going to come up, but I think we have to engage this like it's the 1,000-year war. This is an intergenerational conflict, and we need to treat it like an intergenerational conflict. So yes, if you eliminate the caliphate, that is going to, I can't guarantee it's going to stop it, but they lose their impetus because their momentum, their chief is gone. And that's why Al-Qaeda, after the killing of bin Laden, decreased significantly in its scope. I mean, they have. Now they're reforming, but we've got to engage it. We've got to engage it there. Let's grab another call.
All right, Robert, New Jersey, you're on the air.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Jay, listen, I really appreciate the way you're handling it, and I just want to paint a scenario for you for 30 seconds. I'm listening to everything that all the callers are saying and also yourself. I think we need to proceed with extreme caution only because, we know for a fact that the CIA has had its hand in providing the arms And
I mean, here's the thing: if you're talking about the balance of national security and religious and free speech, for instance, I don't think they're incompatible. We've looked at that before. The national security acts that have been passed, Robert, have not infringed on civil liberties.
No, I mean we've had the right to protest here, to assemble here.
Right.
The police, even with the controversies surrounding the race relations in the United States specifically, these issues, they are things. We always have domestic issues as well, but when it comes to our security abroad or what's happening internationally and what we can do to prevent, closing down our borders, by the way, is not an infringement on any of our civil rights. It wouldn't stop your ability to travel. Wouldn't stop my ability to travel. It's for people who don't have a right to be here, their travel. So that again, that's not an infringement on rights to shut down borders and make ourselves less porous.
All right, Logan, let's get these last two calls really quick.
Mike, you're on the air quickly.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, hi. I'm a veteran, and
Yes,
I'm a Facebook listener as well.
Yes, sir. Great.
But my question is, why have we not heard, and maybe I've just missed it, I don't know, but why have we not heard from all of the Muslims who swear up and down that they're a religion?
You're not hearing from them, other than Zuhdi Jasser and a handful of others. You're not hearing from them, and you're not hearing from them because they're not willing to speak out. And that's, I mean, I don't think we should be politically correct about that anymore either, because you're right. You're absolutely right, and thank you for your service. We're going to have the last call here.
Yep, Joni, you're on the air.
Hi, Joni.
Hi.
Yep.
Yeah, Jay, I was just wondering, I really am happy to hear about your 5-point thing that you got going on.
Yes.
But I wondered, for we the people, can you or somebody, it's hard for us to get hold of Congress and say, please do something.
No, Than, we're working on that now. We're really running out of time here, but Than, tell them quickly what's happening.
Talking to him every single day, Jay. Yes, time is of the essence. You should also talk to your member back in the district, but we are talking to them every single day. We've got to get them there.
I think it's very important for you to take action and join us in this fight. We've got a 5-point plan. We've presented it to Congress. We're getting movement. We need your help. Sign that petition right now at aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 877-989-2255. Pray for these families. Pray for France. Pray for all of us. This is an attack. This is real. Talk to you over a week.
The Islamic State, ISIS, wants to destroy America and eradicate Christianity. Jihadists pledging allegiance to ISIS and radical Islam have attacked America, slaughtering dozens of Americans in multiple terrorist attacks. President Obama refuses to acknowledge the enemy. His administration has failed to protect us. ISIS is at war with us. We must wage war against ISIS. At the ACLJ, we've developed a critical 5-point strategy to defeat and destroy this jihadist enemy. We have 5 key steps to defeat ISIS. 1. Name the enemy, Islamic jihadists. 2. Fix our broken intelligence. 3. Ramp up undercover stings to smoke out jihadists at home. 4. Declare war on ISIS. And 5. Unleash full U.S. military might to utterly destroy ISIS. Stand with us. Add your name to our new petition right now. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or add your name online, aclj.org.